Oh no, I've been diagnosed with diabetes. Now I can't ever eat anything sweet again for the rest of my life. No more desserts with coffee in the evenings. Now it's nothing but dry, tasteless, bland, sad little food for the rest of my life. Well, it's not as bad as all of that. In fact, in this video, I'm going to show you a super chocolatey cake dessert that will knock your socks off if you're wearing any. About a year and a half ago, I showed you a chocolate cake you could make in a mug. It's pretty good, and I've had quite a few encouraging comments from those who tried it. But today, we're going to take that basic recipe and we're going to improve it, make a few changes, and put it on steroids. As Tony the Tiger would say, it's not going to be good, it's going to be great, but without all the sugar. One thing I learned is that you can use a lot more flour than I had been using and get the cake to rise. Now the point of that is you can create in a single mug enough of a dessert to last you for up to 4 nights, depending on how much you want to eat at each sitting. At a minimum, you should be able to make enough in a single mug in 90 seconds to create a dessert for 2 nights, or for you and your spouse to have in 1 night. I like that. Time is precious to me, and the last thing I want to do is spend unnecessary time in the kitchen if I can help it. A second improvement has to do with adding some extra chocolate to this dessert. I had experimented with using Russell Stover's sugar-free chocolate in that previous cake, but it has a significant impact on my blood sugar, I found out. So later I got the idea of using this baby, unsweetened baker's chocolate. This has no sugar alcohols, and only 1 net gram of carbs for 2 pieces. So basically next to nothing. I'm going to use a knife to cut along the sides of the 2 pieces and create tiny little flecks of chocolate to add to the mixture. Why not just use sugar-free chocolate chips, you say? Well, for one thing, they're simply too heavy and they wouldn't rise with the mixture. They would all end up on the bottom of that little cake. But using these tiny flecks of chocolate, they should be spread throughout the entire cake from top to bottom. They'll melt as the cake is baked and give it a nice extra chocolatey flavor. A third improvement is to add a little more sour cream so that the cake turns out nice and moist. Sour cream is very important in this recipe. Without it, your cake is going to be too dry to be very satisfying. Good cake is always a little bit moist, and the sour cream is going to help with that. You can experiment with differing amounts of sour cream and see how much you prefer. I've also added about 2 tablespoons of heavy cream to this recipe to make it a little richer. So let's take a quick look at this new and improved recipe and see how this cake in a mug is made. I start with the wet ingredients. I whisk 1 egg in a large bowl and then add about 2 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream and an equal amount of olive oil. Mix these thoroughly and then add the dry ingredients. 1 heaping tablespoon of coconut flour, 1 heaping tablespoon of almond flour, and 1 heaping tablespoon of unsweetened cocoa. Make sure your tablespoons are large, not level. Add a couple shakes of salt, 2 packets of stevia or Truvia or the non-sugar sweetener of your choice. Add a heaping tablespoon of sour cream and a half teaspoon of baking powder. Now take 2 pieces of the baker's unsweetened chocolate and start whittling down the sides, creating tiny, tiny bits of chocolate. When you get the 2 pieces whittled down to nothing, add the chocolate bits into the mixture. Now mix and mix and mix until it looks about like this. We're not going to add almond slivers as we did in the previous recipe. You'll see why when we bring it out of the microwave. Well, my chocolate cake is done. 90 seconds, technically 88 seconds, and I have chocolate cake, or at least I'm almost done. I got one more thing to do. Let's take it out and take a look at what we've got here. This is always the exciting part. You know I must be a dull guy if I get excited about chocolate cake coming out of a mug, but it's exciting to me. All right, it's steaming hot. Normally, I would probably just let this cool off for a few minutes, but since we're on camera, let's go ahead and deal with it now. Notice it's a lot bigger than the video I previously made. And so by adding those extra ingredients, you get a bigger cake, which means you've got more dessert. In fact, normally I'll just eat about a quarter of one of these, put some whipped cream on it, and bam, I've got me a little dessert with some coffee. But today I'm going to actually eat half of it. So we're going to cut it in half, and then we're going to cut each half in half. And for you math experts, when you cut a half into a half, you get a quarter. So I know that's pretty dazzling for you to realize just how mathematically astute I am. Now, one of the things we notice is it's moist. You can just push it in. It's a little hot, but it's a nice moist cake, not dry at all, and the sour cream made the difference there. But we're not quite done. I have here a bag full of chopped chopped walnut pieces. And what I'm going to do for my lunch today, and I'm going to have this with lunch and just test it, is just jab some of these almond pieces into the nice moist cake, like so. Bam. And I'm going to have cake with, did I say almond? I meant walnut. I'm going to have cake with walnut pieces in it. And I am a sucker for nuts. I just love nuts. I just think they are awesome. God's gift to humanity are nuts. And there's hardly a nut I've ever met that I didn't like, but I don't eat cashews much because cashews are probably about twice as high in carbs as most other nuts. So the cashews I kind of leave alone most of the time. All right, so we've now got walnuts in the cake. Like I said, normally I can make one of these a dessert, but I'm going to have two for my lunch today, test before and after. And then to make it a little more exciting, we've got whipped cream, and this is just 1 gram of carbs for 2 tablespoons. So I mean, again, next to nothing. And just look at that. Just look at that. I mean, this is amazing. And if someone came in my house and caught me eating this dessert, they would point their finger right in my face and say, "You big hypocrite. You go on YouTube. You preach to the whole world that we should keep our carbs low, and look what I've caught you eating." But actually, 2 of these is probably, I'm guessing, I haven't exactly figured it out. It's kind of difficult to do that, but I'm guessing probably about 7 grams of carbs for 2. 1, you're looking at about 3.5 to 4 grams of carbs. So I mean, very, very little. I'm almost certain I can handle this, and I've handled it in the past, so no reason why I can't handle it today. So anyway, an amazing dessert. It's excellent. It's new. It's improved. It's the best yet. If I come up with a better one, I'll let you know. But for right now, this is my go-to chocolate cake. And so I'm going to go enjoy this. I will go test myself before I eat, test myself an hour after when I tend to peak. We'll see what it does. See you back in a little bit. Well, my alarm is telling me that it's been an hour since I had my last bite of that chocolate cake, the cake that came in a mug, or was born in a mug. So I thought just for a change we would do the test right here on camera so we could get to see together what it did. Now, I have to admit I was disappointed with my pre-test. It was at 110, which is high. And strangely, my morning tests, when I wake up in the morning, fasting glucose is usually in the 80s and 90s. And here it had floated up to 110. I had had a breakfast, but it was a low-carb breakfast. Nevertheless, 110 is what it was. So let's see what it is now. And we will do the countdown together. It will take 5 seconds to do this, and we will discover what this chocolate cake in a mug did. Look at that, 98, 98. Well, keeping in mind that I started at 110 before I had the chocolate cake, and an hour after finishing, I went down to 98, that's like a 12-point drop. Not only did the cake not raise my blood sugar, but it actually lowered. It seemed like my pancreas was kind of half asleep as I hadn't eaten anything since breakfast, and it just wasn't doing too much and let the blood glucose kind of drift up. And then when I ate the cake, it sent out some insulin. But the cake just didn't have that many carbs, so it quickly brought it under control, and I'm here an hour later, much lower than I was when I started. You know, I'm kind of a collector. When I was a little boy, I collected little men. I had a box full of little men, little Indians and cowboys and army men, and Zorro was I was proud of Zorro, my little plastic men. And with my mind, I didn't hardly need to get out into the neighborhood and play with my buddies. I could spend hours playing with my little men, and I love to collect them. Well, those days are long gone. I don't play with little men anymore, in case you were wondering. But I'm still kind of a collector. I've got a collection of lamps and lanterns. I just love lamps and lanterns, and I often will light them in the night as Benedict and I watch television, and we dim the lights, have soft light, and light up one of the lanterns. I just think that's cool. I've told Benedicta when I pass on, that lamp empire will all be inherited by her, and she is very excited about that. Well, just kidding. She's really not too crazy about it. But anyway, why am I talking about collections? Well, this is what we people who tend toward diabetes do. We collect recipes. We collect foods. We collect desserts. We collect things that work for us. And anytime you can start before having some chocolate cake, like I did at 110, and you can end up an hour after eating it at 98, you know you've got a good recipe to add to your collection. So hopefully this will work for you. I won't guarantee it. You'll have to test it for yourself, but hopefully it will. And it is good. It is definitely new and improved over the previous version, and the previous version wasn't bad, but this is absolutely better. So anyway, give it a shot and see what it'll do for you. Sometimes I am almost amused when people talk about how sad it is. They can't eat this, they can't eat that. I don't feel that way. I've got so many things I can eat. I've got desserts. I've got main dishes. I've got all kinds of foods that I enjoy. And I don't feel like poor Dennis. I feel good. My life is full, and I'm learning about new desserts and new foods all the time. Doing this YouTube channel kind of makes that happen for me, so I'm constantly learning and discovering and try to pass some of it on to you. All right, that's about it for now. Hope you enjoyed it. If so, give it a thumbs up. YouTube will appreciate that thumbs up, and they'll promote it to more people. More diabetics will get to see it. And consider subscribing to this channel and then click on that bell. That way YouTube will notify you every time we post a new video, and you'll be informed about all these new things that we're sharing. Ideas, interviews, recipes, just trying to give you what a diabetic needs to know and be able to see. God bless. See you again soon.